Tesla has made a ton of headlines this year because of their massive price decreases, which is causing some to question the company's viability into the future and the adoption of EVs. However, there is a lot more going on that meets the eye, and in this video, I'm going to cover what those things are. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, a couple of things have caught my eye as far as how a lot of people are perceiving the price changes that have happened this year with Tesla. Here's a couple posts that received a lot of attention on X, formerly known as Twitter. This post got about 3 million views and this one got about 1 million views, but they both highlight the huge price decreases that Tesla has gone through this year, specifically with the Model S and X. Here's a chart that outlines what those price decreases look like. Here's the S and the X. The S went from $105,000 start of the year average price down to $75,000, and the Model X went from $120,000 to about $80,000. Now, if you combine these price decreases with the Model Y and Model 3 price decreases that Tesla had at the beginning of the year, this means that the car values have dropped somewhere between 30 to 35% in the last 9 months. And that's obviously a huge number. Because of this, Tesla is taking a huge hit on profitability. And of course, Tesla shoppers are also taking a massive hit on depreciation. Imagine buying a car at the beginning of the year and all of a sudden you take a 30 to 35% depreciation hit on the car you have in your driveway. And as far as profitability goes for the company, if I look at their Q2 2022 profitability or margin for their business and compare it to the last quarter's profitability for the business, it's down by about 7%. This means that Tesla is missing out on about $3,000 to $4,000 of profit per car, mainly because of these price decreases. Now, one of the big things in 2023 is that we no longer have those supply chain shocks and those shortages from 2020 through 2022 that were related to COVID, which means that the costs for manufacturing, buying parts, manufacturing steel, even hiring labor, those costs are easing quite a bit. And on top of that, you have a high interest rate environment, especially compared to the last few years, where we've gone from essentially 0% interest from the Fed up to 5%, which is making monthly payments way more expensive. Now, these two things are part of the equation, but there's a third one that I believe is much bigger, and that main thing I believe is the company's strategy and how they're thinking about entering the market. And what's even more interesting is that there were companies back from the 70s and 80s that employed a very similar strategy to what Tesla is doing today. This is a headline from an article from 1981. Which was 42 years ago. It's mind-blowing to me that we have articles from 42 years ago on the internet. Now, what this article highlights is how aggressive Japanese companies were back in the 70s and 80s in getting cars that are out there in the market that are affordable, reliable, and they give you a great bang for your buck. So much so that in 1980, the Japanese nation pulled ahead of the American auto industry for the first time, producing 11 million cars and trucks compared to 8 million from the United States, which was down 30%. And this strategy was mainly based on price. The Japanese focused a lot on ensuring that the processes that were in the car making process made it so that they could sell a car for as little as possible while ensuring that they were giving the customer a lot of features for the money that they spent. So much so that if you fast forward about 8 years, this is an article from 1989 from the same New York Times, grim outlook of early 1980s is back for US automakers. And what this chronicled is that after all these things that the Japanese automakers put in place from a cost perspective to really drop the price of the cars and make them as affordable as possible, a lot of the US automakers started to feel the heat tremendously because they were not doing the same thing. So much so that the Honda Accord became the best-selling car in the United States in 1989. And of course, if you're familiar with Honda Accords, you know that these cars were really built as point A to point B machines that were reliable, but most importantly, super affordable. And what's interesting now is that Tesla seems to be employing the same exact strategy, but with a little bit of a twist. And that twist is pretty wild, as you'll see by the end of this video. Now, if we read Tesla's mission statement, it reads, accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. And I really want you to focus on the word accelerating. That is the key thing here that Tesla has been trying to do for the last decade, is to accelerate the adoption of EVs by ensuring that there are affordable vehicles available for people to buy. And that strategy so far in 2023 is working, with the Tesla Model Y being the first EV to become the world's best-selling car. This car outsold the Toyota Corolla in the first quarter, despite the car being almost double the price. And this trend will likely continue into the next few years as Tesla opens up more and more factories, like the one they're building in Mexico, ramping more of their existing factories, like the one they have in Texas and Germany, introducing affordable pickup trucks like the Cybertruck, And obviously the biggest one here is by introducing an affordable compact car that is likely to start somewhere between $25,000 to $30,000. But of course, a lot of the price decreases that Tesla has done right now, as we saw from the numbers, is really impacting Tesla's profitability. But what's interesting here is that Tesla's long-term profit goals require them to build cheap cars now that they're likely to lose profit on. And let me go ahead and explain why that is so important. And if you're enjoying this content so far, give me a like. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, I think it's important to view these price decreases through a lens where Tesla is trying to solve full self-driving. If we look at their website, Tesla has an option for all their cars where you can add full self-driving capability at $12,000 if you want the software up front, or you can do a monthly subscription for $200 a month. And as we look at a video from Whole Mars Catalog, which is a friend of the channel, thank you Omar for posting these videos, you can see that the software today is allowing a lot of Teslas on the road to simply drive themselves. You can see that there's nothing going on there with the person holding the steering wheel. You can see that their feet are clearly off of the pedals. And right now this software is made so that the cars can drive themselves around the road, but with a driver making sure that the car is doing the right things. And the hope for the companies in the long term, you won't even have to pay attention. And for this to happen long term, where none of us have to pay attention, the data from the driving is the most important piece. And the way that the company gathers the data from the car is by using the 8-camera system that's on the cars today. They have 3 in the front, 4 on the sides, and 1 in the rear that collects everything around the car that a system will use to figure out how to drive itself. So here's an example. Here are the 8 cameras. Here's what they capture. You have the 3 front cameras. You have the 4 side cameras. You have the back camera. And then what the company does is it takes the feed from the cars. It throws it into an AI brain with its latest version called FSD version 12. The AI brain figures out what are the right things to do with the car. And then those set of directions get sent to the car, and the car will be able to drive itself in its surroundings. And the company hopes that with enough data and enough training compute to really process all that video feed that's coming through the AI brain, the cars will be able to be 10 times safer than a human and significantly smoother than a human. But the key thing is for a car to be able to do that, it has to see everything it possibly can on the road. It needs to see signs that are broken, traffic lights that don't work, erratic driving behavior, chairs that fall off of a freaking pickup truck in the middle of the highway, mattresses, everything, right? And so I believe that it's in Tesla's best interest to ensure everybody who wants a Tesla can buy a Tesla so that they can have access to that very precious driving data to complete their self-driving system. And one of the eye-opening things here is that once that self-driving system is finished, the amount of profitability Tesla is going to be able to gain from having that available significantly outpaces any money that they're leaving on the table right now from the price decreases. Let's go ahead and do a very quick math exercise to help explain what I'm talking about. Let's assume you're a customer that's looking to buy a Tesla so that you can run it as a self-driving Uber as an example. That car, let's assume for the life of the vehicle, can go about 300,000 miles, and then you're charging about $1 per mile, which is going to be 50% less than an Uber. And the reason why I think it will be that much cheaper than an Uber is because you don't have a driver to pay. And drivers are the most significant part of the cost. Under that assumption, if we assume Tesla were to keep 20% of the cut of that $1 per mile, Uber's roughly around 30%, but let's assume Tesla keeps 20%. Over the course of those 300,000 miles, Tesla's going to be able to generate $60,000 in additional profit over the life of the vehicle. And that $60,000 doesn't include a license to purchase the actual software so you can run it as a robotaxi. And so a quick way of thinking about the math is that you're giving up around $4,000 today in potential profit in order to make $60,000 down the line once you have solved self-driving. And the only real way to solve self-driving, it seems, is by ensuring you have enough video data and enough data from the roads to power the system so that the car can drive itself. And so it may seem that the company is trying to put a lot of price decreases in place to try and stoke demand, and that could very well be the case. But I think the broader strategy here is that the company is really trying to maximize how many cars it can have on the road so that it can complete its self-driving software as quick as possible. And through that lens, any money they give up now through profits is more than made up in the future as long as this technology becomes available. It's almost like the company's mission statement should be changed from accelerating the world to a sustainable future, and at least for their car division, it should be something closer to, I don't know, flooding the world with EVs to gather data for our AI brains so that the cars can drive themselves. I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to support the channel, super easy, click subscribe. And if you want to go above and beyond, I have links to support the channel in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was informative and helpful, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.